Deckers and all that shit under the bridge or whatever. Like Sample going east on Sample.
Dixie High?
Yeah, Dixie.
Is it Value Pond over there? You make a right on Dixie?
As soon as you make that right, it's like right there on the corner. I think it's Value Pond.
She goes there.
Yeah, she goes there and they get up there.
Welcome to After Dark with Tito.
So we're back. It's the same place they keep it to.
Yeah. We got background noise from Snick Piano playing in the background. We're going to jump right into it.
Stolen goods.
Usually I'm never at the house. Like, you can ask Matt, I'm never at the house.
So she said her and her boyfriend did it?
Yeah, the only time I ever come back to the house is this, like, somebody calls me for money or says they need something, and I'll just stop by the house and I'm like, yo, this person's coming through to give me this.
So they gave you the Sony Vaio?
Yeah. She gave it to me for the $60 a week, so. I bought promos off her. It was like 1,000 promos.
Okay, so she gave you and you and Brandon gave it to your neighbor.
But this, that's not true. The one got a screen, I never got it to.
What's the guy's name you gave it to? Max?
No, it's a different Max. It's Max.
Okay. Now, what time did they give you this stuff last night? 5 in the afternoon, they gave it to you. Right after they did it, huh? What time did they say they did it?
2 laptops, they said.
Like, bam. What time did they say they did it?
I imagine it would have happened in the morning if they came to me, like, right after. It was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
In the afternoon?
Yeah.
So they brought it right to you. Ray.
Ray, I know what kind of car he drives.
What kind of car he drives?
It's a white Chevy. It's like a 90-something. It's the one that, it kind of looks like a Chrysler. It kind of looks like a Chrysler. Like a box Chrysler, but it's a Chevy. I think it's a Chevy. It's the older one, I think.
Do you know where Wood Center is? Good job on that for you. Sample Road, right? 48 Center is. Green Road?
Yeah. I know it's Green Road.
You got military, right?
Yeah.
The beach is this way, so this is east. This is west. You guys live right there.
Yeah.
You know where 48th Street is, right?
Yeah, Green Road.
This is Wood Center over here. Okay? It's like you gotta go
all the way at the end of military?
You go to military to 48th Street, you make a right, like you're heading east.
Yeah.
And there's like there's 3rd Ave, it's right there. That whole area right there is Northwest 3rd Ave.
Where's Power Line at?
Power Line's west. This way, this is Power Line out here. We're not going west.
I'm really bad with directions.
No problem. You go down Military Trail.
And the house right there that we were staying
That's you're staying at. You keep going north. You're going north. Okay?
You turn on Green.
You turn on Green Road. And you go right.
Right on Green Road.
And then you go all the way down. You're going to go over the tracks. Okay?
I don't think I've ever made it right on Green Road. I think I've always made a left towards
Power Line.
Springs.
Okay, no problem.
Stuff like that.
Because there's a couple houses that got hit over there in that Wood Center. Okay.
I don't even think I've ever been that far though.
Alright, so that's that. Let's talk about Northwest 45th Street, which is...
There we go. Now all the levels are there. I had to enter them into the game. That was retarded. I don't know. It was probably some kind of glitch with the PS5, but it made me download the playlist to add them in here. So now we got them all.
That's why I went to prison. I got nailed for every burglary that happened in Coral Springs. Like, literally in the neighborhood. It was unsolved.
Oh, really?
I got hit with everything.
Oh, yeah, I don't do that.
That's what Coral Springs did to me.
Look, let me talk to you about this, Mary. I'm not doing it, dude. That's why I need details. We had another burglary. You know where, this one here happened. We had a couple burglaries. They happened Monday. You're in Thursday morning right now. These happened Monday. The day before this one. Okay? Right down the street. Right down the street. You know where military is? If you go down the street a little bit, heading north. Right down the street on the left-hand side. was a street down there. A couple burglaries were done. They tried it, yeah, near Crystal Lake, a little bit further down from Crystal Lake, like you're heading north.
No, I'm saying they turn on Crystal Lake.
Yeah, then you go around.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Now, this is another one, man. This happened Monday, not Tuesday. The day before Monday, Tuesday, Monday. Okay? Two of them. They tried to get in one, and they end up going next door and hit the other one. You know what I'm talking about now? Let me tell you what was taken.
She stays on that street.
Let me tell you what was taken. Panasonic flat screen TV. Okay? Some bank cards, Bank Atlantic cards, some whole bunch of jewelry, a Cine flat screen TV, Cine, C-E-N-E, flat screen TV.
Alright, we'll go to the lowest percentage completed.
Flat screen is the
16,
It's different, man. It's different. This is
5,
further down. This is further down. Not the ones she called.
6, no, 5, 7, 3,
She probably had
4. Nothing less than 3.
How many
Let's do it.
burgers?
Colombia. Shut up. Alright.
Let's go back to March.
La banga, la banga, la
You went around here. You got it all towards the end of
banga.
Alright, now let's talk about
Mommy. Mommy.
Can I have a cigarette? Am I allowed to smoke it?
yeah, I could just. How about Crystal Lake? Now, this one here happened last month. Last month, yeah.
No, but I wasn't in sample the military. I was staying with none of
You
it.
said you were here for 2.5 weeks. Guess what?
The beginning of April.
The end of April. You were here for the end of April. I had a bracelet, a jewelry box, a wooden jewelry box, a bracelet.
Never done a jewelry.
How about you think Rebecca probably did that one?
She goes to, I can tell you where she goes when she gets jewelry.
Where she goes?
Okay, to the National Jewelers Exchange.
Does she really? She don't go to
dude, because she talks about them all the time. I'll be honest with you. Jewelers Exchange. I think it's called National Jewelers Exchange. I know it's the Jeweler Exchange.
Listen, man. Talk to me about Deer Creek. You and your brother. Talk to me about that, man. Bunch of checks. Talk to me about the keys. Just some house keys, maybe.
Probably took house keys.
Okay, how long ago was it Deer Creek?
Dude, I don't even know where Deer Creek is at, but I know what you're talking about with me and my brother. I know what you're talking about.
What kind of car were you guys taking?
What car were we taking?
Yeah. You guys drove over there. What car was it? No, not Deer Creek. You can't walk there. It's on the Ellsboro. Way too far away from you guys. You can't walk there. I ain't talking about last night. I ain't talking about last night. We're going to talk about that next.
Deer Creek.
This is a couple weeks ago.
Let's do it.
About what it is.
Yes. No. It's out there by Leah's sister's house.
At the gated community?
Yeah, it's a nice area.
It's cheap.
Welcome to Colombia.
Chevy or the HHO?
The remote village of Santa
What is it?
Fortuna awaits you deep inside the Colombian
Yeah,
rainforest.
it's next festival.
An iron-fisted Delgado cartel rules over the village and its surroundings. Security around Santa Fortuna and the closed-off cartel compound is extremely tight. Armed sicarios patrol the streets of the village, ready to enforce harsh punishments to those who do not comply. rumors persist of hidden transportation cave systems connecting the village, the cartel compound, and the hidden coca fields beyond. It is a rare occurrence to have all three cartel leaders present in the village at the same time. Expect that all targets are protected by scrupulous killers, armed with automatic weapons. Rico Delgado inhabits his fortified mansion on the outskirts of the village, while Andrea Martinez can be found in her village office or on her
Thank you, too. No problem. A couple weeks ago.
Probably, yeah, a couple weeks ago. I could name a few pawn shops she's been to. Yeah.
Happy hunting.
She's been to one in Margate, one in Cool Springs.
It's one in Margate.
Off Southgate. Just, there you go, Checkers. There's a closet with
You know where it's at. Did she take him the next day or the next day? When did she take him? The next day. Okay, so the ones she pawned the next day from the burglary, those are the ones that came from the house? From the vehicles? Talk to me about the vehicles. What kind of vehicles? Do you go deep around the door? Do you smash the doors? What do you do? How many vehicles that night do you think you went into? 4?
I'm just browsing.
Well, I don't want to get charged with that. I don't
problem is, how many items were taken from this car do you think total?
Mostly change, probably like 2 times.
Talk to me, two Tom-Toms? Talk to me about some really interesting things that were taken out of those cars. There's one in particular interesting thing that was taken. What else?
You're bugging me, Prom.
Kind of cool. Okay. Oh, wow. Anything sticking out in your mind? About a cigar.
Yeah.
What kind of car? What kind of cigar?
Like an 8-9 cigar.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind it was? Alright. And what else? Any Bluetooth or anything like that?
See, whatever. As soon as I'm done here and she's ready to hit the road, the money will be running in.
That was all.
I just need to
Did
find
Matt
out
get out of the car with you? You guys just
enough to get the opportunity to drive.
talking about the ones in Deer Creek with the one change car.
We didn't go in there. It was like really quick. It was just like on the spur of the moment. Need cigarettes. Need to find a way. Usually I sit at the house or Rebecca will call me or something and be like, hey, I got this, let you know where I can get rid of this, and I'll just be like, yeah, I can give you such and such for it. You know what I'm saying? Come through, I'll give you such and such for it or whatever.
Okay. Those cars that you hit out in Deer Creek, do you remember what they were? What kind of cars? But they were definitely unlocked.
Yes, they were.
Did you root through it?
I've never smashed a car.
No problem. When you went in the car, what'd you do exactly? Okay. So,
Scrap change.
you take, like, GPS systems and stuff?
That might like 2.
So Matt's going into cars too? Do you guys have permission to go in those cars? You know what you're doing is wrong, right? So how do I get to that area?
You said Deer Creek, I don't remember where else.
How do you know it's Deer Creek?
I know the name Deer Creek, I just don't know where it's at. Every time.
Do you know that that's where you're at?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Deer Creek.
Okay, so we got the Deer Creek thing.
Because I know he was going to fight some people in that neighborhood.
Talk to me about Blue Lake last night. What did you guys do? Who did? They were pumping on the side. How do you get to it? You walk? How many cars? How much money? Where was it at? Checks? Is that the checks we found at your house?
Those are the checks that maybe was in the case.
Where did those come from?
It was all wrapped around the money.
Last night.
It was like the money was wrapped around checks. You were sitting right there trying to see.
On the driver's seat, just left there. Okay, what else was taken that night? That's Tuesday night. No, that's the night the deputy stopped you, right? So that's Tuesday night.
Yes.
The deputy stopped you. What did deputy look like?
Deputy was a black deputy. Somebody else, a white guy in the car.
What name did you give him? Because of the warrant thing. Boy, you lucky you got out of that. You get nervous about that, huh? Around what time did they stop you? Not during night. Did you do the burglars before that or after? After. You still went out after that? Okay, so you got 3 cars over there. What do the cars look like?
One of them was a truck. That's the one.
What color was the truck?
That was a dark.
Okay, what about the other 2 cars? What was taken out of the other cars? Change. You got permission to go in that car? Alright, so we got
Just telling you the truth, man. I don't want to get charged with a bunch of shit. I don't
blue light thing. We got the Deer Creek thing. We got the house. Is there anything else? Be sure you remember and correlate everything. Make sure everything matches up. You gotta get off your chest, man, because you're not telling me about one thing. Big thing. You telling me about that white Lincoln?
It was nice.
You bought that Lincoln?
It was bought legally, but
Well, where'd you get it, man?
I bought it off a female.
Who?
Allie.
Allison. I know Allison.
Yeah. My boyfriend Harry.
Where'd you meet Allie at?
Harry's
You banging Allie, ain't you?
Harry's one of the guys off.
Yeah. So you're banging around with Allie, right? Where she live now? So she gave you that car? What time was it with that car? And what time was it with that car? From where? Sure,
I
what?
think either Course Springs, North Lauderdale, Margate, probably. I know it was either.
So what'd you do in that vehicle? Do any crimes in that vehicle? Do any burglaries? Go into any houses with that vehicle?
I've done a lot of crime in that vehicle.
Like what? Delivering weed and all that shit? I don't care about that. I'm talking about going in the cars. You ever roll up on a group of cars and call them these?
I let Max follow me, man.
So no,
Come back to Towns and all type of crazy shit.
what night was that?
Right before the car was.
Where did he do these?
Actually, he does them, or Rebecca does them. They do them all in the same vicinity. Sample, all the same area, like Green Roads and 40th.
Should you be able to take me to your house?
I wouldn't be able to take you to her
I'm
house,
gonna
but I
get
could
this
take
guy.
you to the car.
I'm gonna get this girl. I gotta get this girl. This girl got you all jammed up.
Can I have a cigarette, sir?
I'll take you out. What we're gonna do is we'll take you on the drive. And I'll get you a cigarette. Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090J, man. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. First and foremost, for this video, I don't respect how much people.
I could use some assistance here.
Is the White House, right? Yeah, I think I know.
That's still Mustangs have it. Just right in front of that, they get hit by that. Or hit by a drunk driver there.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know whatever happened with that. Probably botched it.
It's a sad situation.
I know.
I'm glad she ended up okay, though.
a tragic update.
You know, for her jury to see that she had lied and she got caught up in her lies and couldn't come up with excuses fast enough.
Oh, what did happen?
Driving by and looked down, but it wasn't a place that you would suspect.
There are no trespassing signs that line the guardrail and the
I wasn't
fencing.
paying no attention.
There are no
I look up and they had me at
place
gunpoint.
that anyone would choose to go. Not only that, but when you look at the soil itself, this is really swampy soil. Howell told me that the graves he dug were only about 2 to 3 feet at the most in depth. And that was because the water table out here is so high. And so water would actually start to emerge as he was digging the graves.
After killing his first victims, Howell began snatching sex workers from the street at an alarming rate.
In June 2003, Howell killed his third victim, but this time things went a little differently. Danny Wisnett also went by the name of Janice Roberts. They met outside of a bar after closing time, and she got into his van.
This was a transgender man who was dressed as a woman. He had long, silky black hair, Howell states, and a short mini skirt and high heels. And so thinking Daniel Winston is a female prostitute, he invites Mr. Winston into his van. During the transaction that took place, Howell puts his hand on the head of Winston and pulls off a wig. He becomes enraged that this man has deceived him into this vulnerable position. He throws Daniel Winston against the wall of the van and tells me that he punched him out twice and then quickly strangled him.
Howell later said that he killed Danny to stop him from, quote, duping anyone else. But it also looked like Howell's rage and his addiction to killing was getting even more out of control. He wasn't planning the way he had been before.
Yet still, Howell avoided detection of his crimes.
So this was again a case of society's castaways, society's most vulnerable people, people who others might look at as perhaps not worth the effort, that are cast off, and so nobody notices.
In some ways, Howell was hiding in plain sight. During the day, he was driving around in a van. At night, he was using that same van to lure vulnerable women in, to attack them and kill them. Later, he would leave their bodies in fairly public places, quite close to where people were just doing their everyday shopping.
In midsummer 2003, Howell imprisoned, raped, and murdered 2 vulnerable women. The first was Diane Cusack.
She had been addicted to drugs for many years and lived a very hard life on the streets. Howell picked her up in New Britain, Connecticut, and went through his similar routine of raping and strangulation.
Diane was in her early 50s when she died. She had been out of contact with her family for a few years, and no one reported her missing.
After strangling her in the McDonald's parking lot, he buried her behind the strip mall right next door.
The drive-in McDonald's played a big part in Howell's deadly killing spree.
Howell would also go through this very drive-through with some of his victims held captive in the back of his van, tied up and duct taped, and he said to me that he would turn the music up high so no one would hear him or hear the victims if they were screaming or cried for help. And during that time, he would actually order food through the drive-through and ask his victims if they also wanted something to eat, which to me just shows the callousness and the absolute lack of empathy of this man, that as these poor women sat held captive on the back bench, he was ordering food and eating.
Howell was carrying out his crimes in full view of the world, relying on the fact that his victims were never seen by witnesses climbing into his van. He was trusting that no one plying their trade along the turnpike really knew who it was, and that few cared whether or not his victims came back alive. Many did, but But that wasn't his calculation. Having already killed 3 women, it was now that he picked up Ilsa Arizmendi. She wanted to buy drugs. Sex was on the agenda.
What happened was, when she refused to finish that transaction, he was very angry.
When Helen picked up Ilsa Arizmendi, he hadn't been planning on killing her.
He decided in that split second, I'm going to rape and kill this woman.
It would be months before he would be arrested in connection with the disappearance of Ilsa. Enough to abduct his 6th and 7th victims.
And the first of those victims, in August 2003, was Mary Jane Menard.
She was in quite a difficult, dark place in her life. She had struggled with alcoholism, but she'd been sober for more than 10 years. She had trained to be a substance abuse counselor so she could help other people who were going through what she'd been through, but things started to go wrong for her again.
So Mary Jane Menard had back surgery, and at that time she was faced with chronic pain. She was prescribed by her doctors pain medications, and as is the case, unfortunately, with people who struggle with chronic pain, the opioids at some point just weren't enough. And as many find out, they're also very expensive. And so Mary Jane Menard, unfortunately, began to use heroin to help cope with her chronic pain.
She was 40 years old. She went out to buy cigarettes and was never seen again.
He picked up Mary Jane Menard on the streets and went through his typical routine of holding her captive in his van for 12 hours, raping her off and on, and eventually strangling her.
This was also the fate of Joyveline Martinez. Joyveline had been a track star at school before falling victim to drugs. She lived with her mother, who raised the alarm when her daughter failed to show up for her birthday celebrations.
Joyveline Martinez was Hal's last victim. She was a very beautiful young girl. She was only 23 years old at the time of her death. William Devin Howell picked her up on a hillside avenue in Hartford, Connecticut.
Howell went through what was becoming his usual routine. He kept her captive in his van for 12 hours, then he strangled her and dumped her body.
It was the face of Joyveline Martinez that would one day trigger an extraordinary confession from William Howell, who had killed all of the women, but was in prison for the manslaughter of just one of them. In 2007, the ghosts of all of the people that he had killed were not prepared to live quietly any longer and began to give up their secrets. In August 2007, as Howell was serving a 15-year stretch, a hunter roaming the woodland off the Berlin Turnpike made a terrifying discovery.
A hunter was walking through the brush with his dog and found what looked like a human bone sticking out of the ground. He called the police, and they began an excavation of the area.
Well, there was a discovery of, I think, as I recall, 3 skeleton remains in that location, but they weren't able to link anything.
The detectives have a hunter who's in a field and he discovers bones. They get sent off to a lab, and you're waiting for these bones to belong to. Where do I begin my investigation on these bones?
It was a eureka moment of the Connecticut detectives with a long list of missing persons to trace, or at least it should have been. The crime labs that were tasked with finding out who the bones belonged to made error after error. Years followed before identifications were made.
And you're still wondering. You're waiting for those results. That frustration of the waiting. And you have this dysfunctional lab that hasn't processed the evidence yet.
Not until 2014 will detectives finally be able to break the news to victims' families that their loved ones, 3 of them at least, had been found murdered.
The 3 bodies were named as Diane Cusack, Joyveline Martinez, and Mary Jane Menard. For the families, this was halfway to getting closure, but there was still no one on trial for having killed them.
Police vowed to keep searching in a 15-acre woodland. It was a mammoth task. At this stage, they had no idea what links the 3 women whose bodies that they had already identified, but they were determined to find out if any other victims were buried there. Then help came Jonathan Mills, was serving time.
Almost out of nowhere, you receive information to go speak to an inmate. An inmate has information on this case. And when you go and you interview that inmate, he reveals to those detectives detail after detail. He is able to identify some by their first names.
This man is a gangster, bro.
And it is in such a manner that the detectives, it's like switching a light switch on. This inmate is specifically talking about those bones found in that field.
Howell's cellmate came forward to inform on it. He said that they'd been playing cards in their cell, and one of the cards had a picture of a missing woman on it. That woman was Joyveline Martinez.
In an attempt to track down missing people, police put faces of those who had simply disappeared onto the backs of playing cards and distributed them throughout prisons. They were hoping that inmates might recognize faces and volunteer information to the authorities.
The playing cards is a technique that the police and the prosecution have used to try to solve cold cases. On the back side of the cards are faces of missing, of deceased individuals whose cases are unsolved, and they have their phone number, hotline to call, and a lot of inmates take advantage of that, either because they know or they don't know, but they're going to try to pretend that they know information to try to get their sentences commuted or shortened or something of that sort, some kind of benefit.
Howell saw Joyveline's face and told his cellmate, "I know her. I know where she is."
He starts to tell the story to his cellmate. And as he tells his story, it's almost like a steam engine going down a hill. It gets faster and faster and faster. And he reveals the most intimate details of every crime that only somebody who knew these crimes would be able to tell. What gets William Howell in the end is his braggadocious attitude that he has with his cellmate.
I think the police suspected Bill Howell of being involved in at least some of these unsolved murders, but once Jonathan Mills came forward and disclosed what Bill had told him in confidence during a jail discussion, Jonathan drew a map. He wasn't a perfect map, but he kind of gave a general sense of where bodies may be located.
And that cellmate was not from that particular area, is able to draw a pretty detailed diagram of where William Howell told that these bodies were buried. And sure enough,
oh shit,
William Howell's, what he called garden, was located.
Alright guys, hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to give an afternoon. I will not be on during the day tomorrow, and I will not be on till tomorrow evening. So, if you're looking for me, I won't be on till then, but I will be on social media, so see what I'm up to. Follow me there.
He refers to his own people. It's not other people that refer